Senior living operators face a complex set of challenges. How do you stay ahead of the pack? Listen in to From Leads to Leases, a CCR Growth podcast for expert solutions that transform problems into opportunities. And maybe someday soon you'll partner with us to generate $1.5 million and up in additional revenue per community in just 12 months. Welcome back to another episode of From Leads to Leases, the podcast where we dive deep into the senior living industry, offering insights, strategies, and stories from the experts at the forefront. I'm your host, Jerry Vinci, CEO of CCR Growth, here to guide you through the evolving landscape of connecting communities with the families and residents they serve. And today, we have a really special guest, Caleb Richardson, the CEO of Senior Care Academy and Helperly. Caleb has dedicated his career to innovating and improving senior care through technology and personalized services. Under his leadership, Senior Care Academy has become a significant player in the industry, helping senior living communities increase resident referrals and fill their buildings without relying solely on existing networks. Additionally, Helperly aims to make home care as accessible and straightforward as ordering food online, allowing seniors to maintain their independence and quality of life. So in this episode, we'll explore Caleb's innovative approach to senior care, discussing the impact of technology on the industry, and delve into strategies for marketing, retention, and scalability. And we'll also touch on the importance of addressing senior loneliness and the effects of recent industry challenges. So welcome to the show, Caleb. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, we have a lot to cover. So you've become kind of like this trailblazer in the industry. You've got these two separate entities, and you're really kind of like tackling the senior living side and also senior care. I just wanted to get a little bit more information about kind of how you came about starting both of these, and then if you could maybe talk about what each one does specifically.
Yeah, so they both started, one really from personal experience. I don't have necessarily like an education in the space or anything, but growing up, so I started Helperly first, the senior care, in-home senior care and assisted living senior care. From my experience, so I grew up, I'm from Utah, so massive family, not polygamous family, but massive family. And so my grandparents, both sets of grandparents have, 20, 40 grandkids or kids within like a 30-minute drive.
Yeah. So
growing up, that was really normal for me to have an excellent network for the seniors in my life. They had a great impression on me, and then COVID happened, and I realized that was definitely not normal to have that kind of support network as you get older. And so that was towards the end of 2020. There was just a lot of stories coming out and news articles, and so I decided there's got to be something I can do, and just started Helperly to help seniors, have that. Basically, I wanted to make what my grandparents had and have a reality for other aging people, because I feel truly that they're the golden generation. They've lived through, it's
everything.
Crazy to think about, even if they're 70, all of the social movements, all the wars, all of the technological advancements that they've lived through.
Sure.
So want to take care of them. And then Senior Care Academy was a result of a problem trying to scale Helperly. We ran into the problem where we'd put out ads about the services that we're doing, or we started relying heavily on like referral partners or case managers. And it was frustrating because I wanted to be able to scale Helperly without relying on referral partners or spending a ridiculous amount on marketing. So Senior Care Academy came around to fill that need. And what it is, it's a platform that connects seniors to other seniors. And then we also just launched an adult children platform that connects adult children to other adult children based off of interests. So rather than telling a senior, hey, get a free consultation, we're saying, hey, come and learn piano for free. And then because of that, we were able to we have almost 4x since the beginning of the year. So it's kind of my own need. And then I realized, I only can help so many people in person. So we started sharing it with assisted livings and other home health and agencies like that to get in front of seniors and teach them about their services. So those are the two businesses.
I probably have the opposite family situation from you. I have one sister.
Oh, wow.
That's it. And I do have three cousins, but it's very, very small. I have a son and daughter, and my son is like the last in our line of the Vincis. So I'm like,
Uh-huh.
there's all this pressure for him to, to have a family of his own to keep the line going. So
Yeah.
yeah, and he's like,
Yeah.
I want 5 kids, I want 10 kids. I'm like, great, please.
Do it.
We did.
Please
I'll
keep the
take
line
all the
alive.
support I can get when I'm your grandfather, when I'm a
Yeah.
grandfather. So that's awesome. That's great that you're able to do that for your family, and then like turn that around and create a business idea around that for other people who may not have that in their own families. So
Yeah.
I think that's great. That's a good origin story, and I think a lot of people in this industry, it's kind of their experience in senior living has come from their own personal stories. Like my experience, my first kind of touch with senior living came from like my grandmother, who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and ended up in a
Wow.
nursing home, and seeing some of the conditions that she was in. I was like, I never want to see my parent living in a situation like that. And, at the time, my parents really didn't know better, or there weren't really many options at the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
like there are now. And then after her, it was my other grandma passed, and I watched my grandfather kind of like slowly decline after she passed, and my mom tried to like take him in and take care of him at home, so she became like the home caretaker, and that
Mhm.
I saw him like continue to decline. So it wasn't until we got him into like an assisted living facility where he really flourished, for
Yeah.
the time that he
Had
had
all the
left.
support that he needed, and
Yeah. So I saw the benefit there, and that's kind of why we started our agency, was based on just that belief that there are these good communities out there that are doing great things in the world, and we want to be able to connect more seniors and families of older adults with the best communities out there. So that's kind of our goal as well. So I do love what you're doing. So as a CEO of both Senior Care Academy and Helperly, what is your day-to-day workload, or what are you
yeah.
typically doing?
Yeah. So Helperly, the service side, we've gotten it to the point where I have a team in place, an excellent team. 9 months ago, it was when I was doing new clients and scheduling and hiring. Like, I wanted to pull my hair out a little bit, but we've got an excellent team. So now the day-to-day there, I'm mostly withdrawn from it, where like I'm supporting the team, helping them, achieve their goals and get roadblocks out of the way.
Yeah.
And then Senior Care Academy, where we just launched the private label, working with other companies, I'm every day, in their marketing and selling and onboarding and trying to get it growing. So we've got a little team over there of about 4 people, five people, the coders and different people. So it's just
Hmm.
growing and trying to help other senior care providers. So
That's great. I mean, in that role, what do you think the biggest challenges facing the senior living industry are today?
yeah, in my experience, I think for me, I think the biggest challenge, it's the attrition rate or the churn of clients. Like 50% every year is, if you think about that number in any other industry. So Senior Care Academy, technically, it's like a software. And if
Hmm.
you get above like 7% churn or something, something is incredibly wrong. And it's difficult in the senior living space. Like if you have 100 rooms for residents,
Hmm.
every year you have to get 50. So that's whatever that math is, 4.5 every month just to keep up. And I feel like that is a huge issue. And I think it comes from just lack of understanding, because like the assisted living or nursing home that your grandma went to is the experience that your parents had with assisted living of like, oh my gosh, it's terrible, it's scary.
Yeah.
And I think they're battling that, and because of that, they're getting
That
people in their
stigma.
last
Yeah.
2 years of their life rather than getting people to move in for 5, 6, 7 years. I think that's a huge challenge.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think, depending on the level of care too, you look
Mhm.
at a CCRC, for example, and the average time someone spends in a CCRC is around 14 years versus, a memory care facility, it's like 1.5 years
Yeah.
at best, so the churn rate is obviously far higher, and occupancy is a bigger challenge. And then it even costs, the cost of acquiring and then retaining for only that short amount of time, there's not a whole lot of revenue generated. So,
Yeah. It's
and
hard.
unfortunately, it's hard to talk dollars and cents in this industry because like we are
Yes.
talking about people, so
Uh-huh.
but at the end of the day, it is business, and it's like
Hmm.
they can't remain functional and operational if they're not generating a profit. So
Yeah.
that becomes very difficult for some of these communities, especially the smaller ones that are like a 60 bed or a 100 bed, where they do have that amount of turnover happening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. And really the way that they can increase it is a tough topic because we're talking about people, but it is a business. Like
Yeah.
their customer acquisition cost to lifetime gross profit, it's directly correlated to how long they stay. If they're going to spend $3,500 every single time they get a new resident, if they can make that resident last 24 months longer, all of a sudden their lifetime gross profit to acquisition costs goes way up. And that's really the only variable that you have there, because it's hard to, I don't know. I feel like so much time is spent trying to get the customer acquisition costs down, where it's like, how about we just, if we can get in front of them younger and teach of the different levels. Nobody knows. Most people don't know about the different levels within an assisted living, that they are, we're just missing out on so much of that lifetime of that resident. And it really is like, it sounds bad saying like the lifetime of the resident, but with how assisted livings are these days, I've toured some, and it's like, I wouldn't mind living there. Like, they're fun. They've got a lot going on.
Yeah, they
People
do
just
a
don't
lot
know.
more than sitting at home, watching TV and not
Yep,
socializing and all the other downsides that older adults experience if they're not,
exactly.
if they don't have those programs in place. And you look at a CCRC, for example, and the average lifetime value of a resident is somewhere between like 400 to like $500,000. So
Yeah,
because
with that same
they're
like $3,000 acquisition cost. It's crazy.
exactly because they're spending so much longer there. And granted, like it'll take you the average time from like lead to move in for a CCRC is like anywhere 12 to 18 months. So it's a lot
Hmm.
longer of a time frame because nobody's in a rush, right? Like
Yeah,
they're young, they're active, they're still in good health. So like, and most CCRCs won't even like accept somebody who is in that later stage of like
yeah,
needing greater assistance or having some kind of cognitive decline. Is typically they want the younger active residents.
yeah.
So it's a little different, um, but yeah, I think that's definitely a challenge for a lot of senior living communities, and I think just redefining what senior living is. It's two terms that need to be like removed from the vocabulary. One is nursing home, because
Yes.
I think that just has a negative connotation to it completely, and the other is retirement community, because I think there's a lot of older adults nowadays that are looking to downsize and simplify, but they're not technically retired. They
Yeah.
might still be working. They might want an encore career. They might want to do something else with their time now that they've simplified their life. They're like, okay, well, if I don't have this big house to pay for anymore and I just have this apartment, I don't need to make $150,000 a year. So what do I really want to be doing with my time? So you see a lot of older adults now like taking on these passion projects, or these, they call them encore careers that
Yeah.
maybe they wanted to do their whole entire life, but they were never able to because they had all these other expenses.
I like that a lot. Yeah. And I've never thought kind of about how retirement community has that similar connotation where it's like, oh, I'm going to go and retire and not do anything and hang out in my apartment, which is not
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, chair yoga and bingo and all those things are great, but like if you're not ready for that, and my parents are a perfect example of that. They're in their mid 70s. My dad will be 76 this year, and they still run their printing business, but they
that's
work
sweet.
from home.
Yeah.
But he's like, they don't have mobility issues, they don't have cognitive decline, but it's like realistically within the next 5 years, that's going to happen to some
Hmm.
degree. So but they still live in a house that has 3 flights of stairs that they're walking up and down. So I'm like, at what point do they make the decision that they need to downsize? And if they're going to downsize, do they downsize to another home? Does that make sense at this age? Or does it make sense for them to consider, senior living as an option, a senior living apartment of some kind? So yeah, I mean, there's all these challenges I think that the industry faces, and just a lack of education of what options are available. And I think that's
Yeah.
where like you come into play, being able to help educate people and to have these other services that can help assist in that is really great. How do you see the senior living industry evolving over the next 5 to 10 years?
Quick question. I think that there's a lot of effort going towards kind of like the rebrand, getting rid of the nursing home, getting people in. There's a lot of community outreach efforts going on to try to get people to realize that it's more of an option. And I also think that we're moving especially with the next 10 years, we'll move past kind of like the Great Depression era babies, which is going to be huge because I mean, that's where my grandparents are. They're Great Depression era babies, so they hold on to everything. They don't want to spend money on anything.
Yeah.
And so like I think when we move past that, we're getting into kind of a subcategory or age group of seniors that they have spent money on things, some leisures in life. They aren't going to be so, I don't know if afraid is the right word of downsizing, but they're not going to be against downsizing. It's not like a hit on their pride. Like my grandpa, thinking about him downsizing, I know for sure he would feel for some reason like it was like a failure or something, because he worked so hard. He gained his house. He has all these things that my aunts and uncles
they worked
don't really
a lifetime to acquire,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. But I think we're moving into like over the next 5 or 10 years, the people like your parents I don't think that they'll have as much apprehension to moving into a place like that just because they're not encoded with kind of hoarding and stashing cash and not spending it on anything. And so that's my opinion, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good perspective for sure. I hope that's where we're moving towards, because I think we need to seriously consider it. Just the industry in general, there's a major housing crisis that's, we're upon it right now. I mean, I don't think many people realize it, but the number of older adults that are entering the housing market, is supposed to double or triple by the year 2030. I think double by 2030 and triple by 2040.
Wow.
So, yeah. And then I looked at there was a report that came out, the NIC Shark report a couple months ago, and it was talking about the amount of housing that has been slated between now and 2026. And they said if every single construction project was finished between now and 2026, that would still only account for about 33% of all of the housing that's needed for today's seniors. So, and that it's only like 44,000 units that would be generated in those projects. So we all know that like building a large facility takes time. It takes like, permits have to get approved. Like it's years in the making.
Yeah.
So like and then even like, okay, there's a lot of older buildings that maybe we need to repurpose. Like a lot of corporations, for example, are no longer using their office space because their teams are remote. So are we able to repurpose those types of spaces? But that obviously takes a lot of permits and time as well. So that's my concern for the industry is the housing situation. Yeah. And what we're doing about that, because that's the last thing that are the older generations that they've put in their time, right? They've worked hard their entire life to now want to retire and find a place to call home. If you're used to like staying at a Ritz-Carlton and the only thing that's available is like a Motel 6, like that's a big difference in qualities. I know if even if you had the money to spend on Ritz-Carlton, if it wasn't available because there just wasn't housing, like where do you go and what do you do in that situation?
Yeah.
So I've actually seen there's a lot of, push towards more housing, but there's also a push towards different types of housing, like senior living houses. They're small homes. The micro communities
15,
that have
25
like
communities.
Some of them have like 6 beds or 10 rooms, or up to like 25. They're pretty small, and they're boutiques, so they're usually pretty costly. But at the same time, like to be a part of like a very small tight knit group like that has its advantages as well. So I think there's options for everybody, and I think it's just weighing those and making sure that people are aware of all the different options within senior living.
I agree.
Yeah. So getting back to Senior Care Academy, I know we were talking about a little bit more about it and how you help senior living communities increase resident referrals and improve their occupancy rates. So can you tell me a little bit more about that process?
Yeah, so kind of the secret is what we like to call the IBA conversion process. So IBA is interest-based activities. So like
Mm.
a lot of assisted livings are already doing this, or senior livings they're hosting bingo, or they're doing like car shows, or doing barbecues. And basically what we do is like that, but times 10, and kind of meeting seniors where they're at. So we gather all these different seniors from all different ages of life. I believe very strongly in stage, not age. Like my grandpa's 89, and I walked out this morning and he was on like an 18-foot ladder trimming a tree. And like we have we have clients that are like 64 and not. Anyways, so
Not capable. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So what we do is we go and get seniors, and we get the hosts, and or host meaning the instructors for like a piano class and a guitar class, and like you mentioned, chair yoga, bingo. And we're always getting new hosts to try to find and bring seniors, meet them where they're at and bring them together with other seniors. And then how we work with assisted livings is a lot of the time in each kind of subset area, they want to meet in person. So we say, hey, what's an example? We'll just say there's the senior living in Mill Creek in Salt Lake area. The piano class this week is going to be there, and so the 25 seniors that are coming every week, we get them inside of the door for that community.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of leave it at that point. We leave it up to the marketing director at the community to get their information. But when we partner with communities like that, we're actually able to get people in their door. And that's a lot of the battle, I think, in assisted living, is like getting them in the door and realizing, wow, this place is pretty nice. So that's what we do. We get them very engaged, create the community virtually, partner with senior living places to host that activity in person.
So then any of those people who sign up for that activity and then turn out to be a resident, would you get some type of a commission or finder's fee for bringing that resident to their door?
Great question. So we actually, like APFM, a lot of these kind of large referral agencies, I don't know, referral companies, they just, I feel like, have ruined a lot of the time kind of what referrals look like.
Yeah.
So we don't charge any sort of like commission or referral fee. It's kind of an ongoing, basically what we offer to the communities is an expansion of what their activities director is doing. So they're able to create a private label version. So we, in the communities, they have 3 or 4 activities every day, but a lot of people still aren't coming down to that. So we basically, by partnering with us for just a monthly subscription, they get access and give their residents access to what we call a personalized activity calendar. So they can come on and pick the classes. So we don't charge any sort of referral thing. It's the same set cost. And if they get 10 residents one month, we'd be thrilled for them. It's the same cost.
That's great. That's great. No, that's awesome. I mean, I literally just interviewed somebody from one of the leading, it is a commission-based referral agency, but it's not like a place for mom.
Yeah.
And I actually recorded an episode talking all about all the trouble a place for mom is in right now. So I'm definitely glad to hear you say that this is great. Like, this is just another way that we can help serve the senior living industry without it being like a parasitic relationship where you're just like sucking the life out of these senior living communities, Like, that's great that they can just pay this fee and whatever they get out of it is great, But at the end of the day, like, you're creating a more rich and like rewarding experience for the residents themselves. So I think that's excellent.
Yeah, it's a way that the community can give back, one, to their residents, but also just to their community at large. The area that they serve. They basically, it's not Senior Care Academy putting it on, since it's private labeled. It's whatever their assisted living is, putting on all these free classes. And that's kind of where the generating resident referrals without relying on their current network comes into play. Because if their residents come on and they join a piano class, and then that community or that senior living gets 15 other people outside of the community to come on, they're able to naturally create those friendships and relationships. Because that's the other thing, that my grandpa, he has friends in his church where they were really good friends, and then they moved to a senior living, and now he like doesn't talk to him, and it's like almost like a greater than thou feeling, and it's like you're
Hmm.
still the same, like you guys still like the same things, and so kind of trying to make that happen naturally using our platform for the
Hmm.
community. But yeah, it's a great way for the community to give back, provide a ton of extra value, and a happy byproduct is that people are going to be moving in. So
Yeah. Oh, what a great product. That's excellent. And then kind of flipping the script on the Helperly side of things, how does help? I know you're tech savvy, so how does Helperly integrate technology into home care to make it more accessible and straightforward for seniors?
yeah, so we were going to build out an app that was like a peer-to-peer app.
Hmm.
Similar, there's a company out there called Papa, and we quickly discovered that there's a lot of issues. So Papa, they have that app where it's like a care.com specifically for seniors. Um, and you just lose kind of that personal touch when you have a corporate office in Florida and there's not really any sort of training with caregivers. So what we decided is we just use a software that's already built specifically for home care companies and plug in the clients and their family and our caregivers where they're able to communicate more openly. And then we have the office, kind of where I feel like the missing piece with that company is they don't have like offices in every location where they're working, where their caregivers can be trained, where the clients can come in, where they have a staff that's dedicated to making sure that there's a personal relationship. That's a big piece of Helperly
Yeah.
as we're expanding. Is we want our goal really is to make it so that way the client and the caregiver match on like a personality level, not so much like, oh, your schedules align. It's like you like doing this
It's more
thing
than that. Yeah.
and you also like doing this thing. I
Yeah.
think you guys would love to spend 20 hours a week together, and they actually become friends, and it's been cool to see like Christmas gifts exchanged and flowers on Valentine's Day. Like it's a cool. That was the original goal, is to try to give what my grandparents have to everybody. So
That's great. No, because we did work with a home healthcare agency for quite a while, and that's all they did was they just found a caretaker who had hours to give
mhm.
to someone. They didn't think about that person's interests or background, or they didn't take any of that into account. So the fact that you're trying to match people up like that, that's great. Love
Yeah.
that. So how do you see AI and other emerging technologies being integrated into senior living communities to enhance operations and resident care?
Yeah. I think something that we're actually trying to eventually do with Senior Care Academy, but I think one huge opportunity for AI is that stage, not age type of thing. So in the assisted living or even pre-assisted living, getting the questions, getting the senior to give some feedback on how they're feeling, what they're going through, plugging in, their insurance and their different types of providers. I think using AI and feeding it the data for, once they read or once they express XYZ symptoms, they really ought to be introduced to an assisted living or like a second tier or a second level assisted living.
Hmm.
Or before that, they have XYZ symptoms, a home health company can start working through Medicare to help, prevent some things. I think that's a huge opportunity where it's monotonous, and insurance and aligning providers and all of that is just a lot of work. So
Yeah.
feeding an AI tool all of the information that it needs, so that way it can help make those decisions to
Yeah.
prevent
Like
falls and to prevent.
predictive analytics almost would help. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
That makes
So I think
sense.
that's a huge tool. That's something that, like I said, at Senior Care Academy, we want to start building in to our system, is getting feedback from all of the users that are coming to classes to be able to start feeding to get, like I said, predictive analytic to get them the care before
Hmm.
they fall. And as soon as I can't remember the statistic, but it's like once a senior falls and breaks a bone or something, it's crazy how quickly their decline can accelerate.
Oh, I believe that. That's exactly what happened to my grandmother. Was she fell and broke her hip, and the next thing we knew, she she was diagnosed with dementia, and she was in the nursing home within the next 6 months, so I think
Yeah.
she actually fell twice. It was more than once. So but falls are usually a good sign that there's some type of impairment. Yeah, it's
Yeah. And I
interesting.
think that AI can prevent a lot of things like that if we're able to get that, have it track even just like how they're feeling or just on a daily basis. I feel like eventually it'll be able to predict, this person is likely to have a fall within the next 90 days, should be consulted to get some sort of home health or physical therapy, or move them somewhere before it happens to try to increase their life expectancy.
I know we've kind of talked about the activity side with Senior Care Academy, and then even with just making a human to human connection with Helperly.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, combating loneliness is something that you care deeply about because it's embedded into both of these platforms. So, I mean, is there anything else that we haven't mentioned that these services do to help address that issue?
Yeah. Like you mentioned, the person to person, sending somebody to go visit is a great way to combat loneliness. 70%, I think, of seniors want to connect with their peers. So that's kind of what the interest-based activities, the Senior Care Academy and our private label partners do. But ultimately, it's like nothing can replace the family connection of loneliness. And so I harp on it a lot, is connect, go visit your grandma, go visit your mom or dad, and just spend time with them. I know it's hard. There was a study. Oh, I saw it on LinkedIn, but it was like people that have family visit them live like 7 years longer on average, or something like that.
I
And
believe
so
that.
obviously that's not an feasible thing for a lot of people. It's like 1 in 5 seniors are elder orphans, but there's things out there for seniors to do. And as far as like people listening, if they have a family member that's getting older and they're inside all day, or they're watching Fox or CNN all day, like if you would be bored living their life, they're probably bored living their life too. So like help them find something in the community, whether it's joining Senior Care Academy to come to classes, or going to the senior center or the rec center, or something. Like there's
Something to
so many
break up
things.
the routine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy to me how often adult children, they just see their parents as they age living a life that they're like, I'd be bored out of my mind being in my home all day. It's like they're human too. They're bored too. Like
Yeah.
take them
They're
out, take
not
them out to
enjoying
lunch,
that.
do something. Yeah. So if you would be bored by their life, they are too. So like get them signed up for one of our free online classes, or there's so many things going on just in their
Yeah.
community too. So
I think one of the recent episodes I did, I was talking about the impact of loneliness as we age, and I think it was something along the lines of like at the age of 65, the average older adult is spending 2 hours alone every day, and then by the age of 80, it's upwards of 6 hours a day.
that's crazy.
So yeah, and
Uh,
and a lot of that has to do with the fact that like most people who are married at the age of 65 are still with their partner,
mhm.
versus like 80, they're a lot of times they are by themselves. So then unfortunately they do end up spending a lot more time by themselves. But that definitely goes back to what you said about spending time, making the effort to be with your loved
Mhm.
ones, and really just trying to get them out of their bubble,
Yeah.
sometimes is really challenging. I know that's a big challenge for me. I live in California. My parents live in New Jersey, so it's not easy to get over there and visit
Yeah.
with them. But making the effort to
Yeah.
communicate as much as we can, and I am going to take your advice, I think, and try to find some other things maybe in the
Yeah.
community that they don't know are going on. Hey, did you know that they do this every week?
Yeah.
Like you guys should go check this out. They're pretty social, but they live in their little box of like what they consider. Oh, we go out to eat once a week, and we do our weekly
Yeah.
this and our weekly that. It's like that's one time out of
Yeah.
7 days that you do something. It's like you need to
Yeah.
expand your horizons.
And I like what you said about like you don't have to be their only source of companionship.
Hmm.
It can be You can be the catalyst. So when you go out there to get them out of their bubble, they might need, if you do some research and find that there's a community or something happening, like you could get them there that first time, and then ideally they keep on going because it is
Yeah.
hard. There's a lot of people in your situation where it's hard to get out there, more than once or twice a year. But if you make the most of that visit and, get the tires spinning and get them in the community, then ideally if they have a good experience, they're going to keep going on their own. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's the hope. That's the hope for
yeah.
sure. Um, what are some activities or programs that have been particularly effective in engaging seniors and reducing feelings of isolation that you guys have implemented?
Yeah. Our most popular are a lot of the music-based ones, so piano and guitar get a lot of interest. We have a technology class that seniors really like. Fitness classes, whether it's yoga or like a senior specific to help with joint pain or something.
Hmm.
So those are the biggest ones. Musical activities, fitness. It's kind of like you said, except not necessarily a encore career, but like finally they have time. They've always wanted to learn how to play piano, or they forgot how over their 40 years because they never had time to practice. They're on it again. And I think that what ultimately we're trying to do is create as many things. There's so many interests in the world, and in your subset, in Salt Lake City, there are 1,000 people that like fly fishing. But, connect somebody in Salt Lake City and Utah County and all over Utah or all over a different state, all of a sudden you have tens of thousands of people that are interested in that. So it's less about the thing itself, I think, and trying to find the other people that share that interest and put them in the same room.
Yeah.
So,
What you're saying about people who've always wanted to do things and or didn't have time to do things, and now they're finding the time to like revisit those things. I totally resonate with that. I mean, I've been a musician my whole life, and one of my goals, even now, is I want to be writing movie scores. Like that's my
wow,
goal,
that's
right?
sweet.
But like I'm running a podcast and I'm running a marketing agency, and like it has nothing to do with creating movie scores, right? But like I
Mhm.
know like eventually that'll be something that will be my primary focus when I get there, but probably when I'm retired, so like
Yeah,
that's a goal for me. Like that's something that I plan to pick up as soon as possible. So like
hmm
that totally resonates with me for
yeah.
sure. In terms of like marketing and retention, what strategies do you recommend for senior living providers to improve their marketing efforts and to attract more residents?
Great question. One of my biggest pet peeves, especially kind of in the senior living space, because you have in marketing, you have the funnel, you have the top of the funnel. Like in any other industry, there's always like, we're going to do like a lead magnet and free content and like all this free stuff to fill the top of funnel. And then you educate and then you book a call and like any ads that you see from senior living, it's always the very bottom of the funnel. It's like, come do a tour. And it's like, you're only getting the people that, like you said, are in an emergency, their spouse just passed, or they just fell and broke their hip. And you're not getting any of these people at the top of the funnel that you're actually able to educate. And, it might take 6 months or 12 months to get them moved in, but you're still getting so many more opportunities and like at bats trying to help these seniors.
Hmm.
So my biggest piece of advice is do some sort of top of funnel marketing, whether it's like lead magnet is, like I said, super common, some sort of free resource that you target towards adult children, or that's really in essence what Senior Care Academy is. It's the top of the funnel. It's getting in front of seniors by giving them something that they actually want right now. Because I don't know, the odds of a senior that they haven't fallen or their kid and they're scrolling on Facebook or Instagram and they see like, come get a free tour. The odds of like them being like, yes, I'd love to do that on my day off is so slim. But
Yeah.
if you're scrolling and it's like, um, the 10 best ways to help your mom start decluttering so you don't have to, or something like that, I would click on that and I'd give you my email to be able to continue a conversation. So something like that, some sort of value. And then on the other side of that, you have like a nurture sequence that eventually leads them to coming in and booking a tour. But
Yeah.
it's like such a pet peeve of mine. The odds of somebody that's not in some sort of life altering event being like, yes, I want to come and tour
Well,
randomly because I saw your ad.
yeah. And I would even challenge more senior living communities to engage with organizations like yours, where they're able to create more activities, at the top of the
Mhm.
funnel, something that people actually want to go and do
Yeah.
before they're ready to tour, right? Like, I would much rather go like hang out and play, chess or listen to a great, guitarist or anything
Yeah.
other than tour. Like, tour is the last thing on my mind, like, because there's
Yeah.
no commitment to it, right? Like, I'm just going to go
Yeah.
hang out for an activity,
Have
like
fun.
nothing else. And then obviously getting them through the door, getting them to see the facility and interact with some of the residents, I think would be a win-win. So
Yep.
that would be great.
Yeah. And then that's when they do some, because there are communities that do barbecues and they spend thousands and thousands on these activities, and then they leave with no contact information. So that's the other thing. When you do have something that's kind of top of funnel, have some sort of way to collect their information. And that's another way that people have been able to use us is, rather than saying, let's get you on the calendar for a tour, you can say, hey, let's make you a free account, using their private label version of our software. Let's make you a free account so you can come and keep on hanging out on these other activities. And then you spend tens of thousands of dollars to get a couple hundred people to your community. You're actually leaving with a way to
Yeah.
contact them. So
How do you stay ahead of trends and continue to innovate in the senior living industry? I mean, are you just kind of like listening, keeping your ear to the ground,
yeah.
and paying attention to the feedback you're getting, or do you have some specific methods or places that you go to find out the latest and greatest?
Yeah. Kind of ear to the ground, always just doing research, and then networking with other providers and trying to see. Really, it's my philosophy is, if you see a need, see a need, fill a need, from robots from forever ago. Listen to what's going on and what people want and need, and if we're able to help solve it, that's kind of my method, is scratch your own itch, kind of.
Yeah, I love that. I guess my last question would just be, what advice would you give to senior living providers looking to enhance their technology infrastructure and kind of improve the services that they offer residents?
Yeah. With technology, I feel like you always want to solve for zero, meaning if you implement a technology service, you want it. But the whole like secret behind technology is that the more people use it, it doesn't cost more. So like automations, for example, is a
Hmm.
great tool, because once there's a front load of 20 hours to set up an automation, and then you can send tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people through that
Yeah.
automation, and it costs you nothing more.
Yeah. Zero
And
effort.
so, exactly. So like when you're researching technology or looking to implement one, you always have to weigh out, is it going to substantially reduce, because that's kind of, especially with technology tools, that's the ROI. Is it, if it's saving you 5 hours a month and your hourly rate's $50, it's like, okay, it's saving me $250 a month, but they're charging me $400. I think I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing.
Hmm.
So that's the best way to make sure that you're not signing up for a bunch of technologies that are making more work and costing you a ton.
Yeah, that's great advice. No, I think keeping track of that, the bottom line. I mean, even most senior living providers can't even tell you what their cost per acquisition is.
Yeah.
When they really look at it at the end of the day, when they factor in their marketing, their advertising costs, how long their sales team is spending with each of those leads, and then what they're closing for, like,
Yeah.
that's been something that we've tried to help a lot of senior living
Yeah.
providers tackle, but it's
Yeah.
interesting how they're not able to do that themselves
Yeah.
accurately. And I think that's part of the challenge too, with the profitability and occupancy issues that a lot of communities have, and they're like, I don't understand what's
Yeah.
going on with the numbers here, and
It's
we
like,
got
well,
we got to get to the bottom
it took
line.
your salesperson 6 months to get somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is as part of our like sales, as we're signing up companies for the private label, we ask them like, what's your acquisition cost? And like, oh, it's zero. We get a lot of referrals, and it's like, well, how many times each month are you taking that referral partner like lunch, and how many hours do you have to spend on them? And it's like, okay, you make
Exactly.
$100,000 a year, 20 hours. All right. 20 hours spent with them each month, and you got two clients. That means 20 times $2,000, $1,000 per new client. It's like there's a cost associated with getting people, and sometimes people don't realize that, and then they get to the end of the month and they're like, where's all my money?
Yeah, I mean, two things about that. One, depending on the living option, and recent data said it takes anywhere from 23 to 27 touch points to get someone from the lead stage to the move-in stage in senior living. And then the second one was we polled over 30,000 people in the industry about, sales representatives in the industry about how long were they spending with every prospect, every like qualified prospect that they had in their pipeline. And the average time they said was 15 hours or more. So,
wow.
So multiply that, figure that,
Yeah.
however much
hours.
you're paying your sales team per hour times 15 hours, add that on top of whatever you're spending in marketing and advertising, and you start to see how that cost will balloon really fast.
And the conversion, if they have 5 different people are spending 15 hours with and only one converts, it's like really it's 45 hours to get that one
45 hours to get one conversion. Plus they're getting a commission on top of that. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
So Caleb, as we wrap up, how can our audience, I thank you again for such a wonderful conversation. I learned so much about what you're doing, and I think it's really great. But how can our audience stay connected with you and your companies to keep the important conversation going? And are there any upcoming initiatives or events that you'd like to share?
Yeah. So I'm fairly active on LinkedIn, also Senior Care Academy. If anybody wants some sort of shout out. So we have our own Senior Care Academy podcast, but also on LinkedIn, we're doing shout outs of different providers and executive directors. So if anybody knows somebody that they admire and they think they're doing a great job in the senior living space, send them and just have them DM Senior Care Academy on LinkedIn. And then if they are interested in learning about the private label software to drive more people to their community, they can just go to seniorcareacademy.com. And if you have anybody that's Helperly right now is just in Utah, but we're expanding to be determined states in January. So we're researching all the other states and finding where we can make the biggest impact. So
that's great. Well, I'll make sure I put all the links in the show notes for you. So
sweet.
As we wrap up today's episode, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Caleb Richardson for joining us and sharing his valuable insights into the senior living industry. It's inspiring to see how dedicated professionals like Caleb are leveraging technology to enhance the quality of care and operation within senior living communities. If you want to stay connected with Caleb and learn more about Senior Care Academy and Helperly, be sure to visit their websites at seniorcareacademy.com and helperly.com. You can also connect with Caleb on LinkedIn. And again, I'll put all of that in the show notes so you guys can click and find him. And as always, we hope you found this episode insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and stay tuned for more episodes where we can continue to explore the dynamic world of senior living marketing and sales. And this is also a reminder that From Leads to Leases isn't just an audio experience. We're also a video podcast. So if you want to see video versions of episodes like this with Caleb, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube or Spotify channels. I'm Jerry Vinci, CEO of CCR Growth, thanking you for joining us on From Leads to Leases, where we're giving you all of these great senior living industry insights for free and asking nothing in return other than for you to like, subscribe, and share this episode with anyone who might find it useful. I'm truly grateful for your time and attention. Until next time, lead with strategy and with heart. Chat with you again soon. Thanks for tuning in. Explore more at ccrgrowth.com. At CCR Growth, we've developed the Senior Growth Innovation Suite to unlock an additional $1.5 million and up in revenue per senior living community within a year. We specialize in generating quality leads, expediting sales, and reducing acquisition costs. Let's connect soon.